niyatam kriyate Arjuna sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva satyaga satviko mataha. Translation. But he who performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is of the nature of goodness, O Arjuna. Text 10. Na dveshtya kushalam karma kushalena nusajate tyagi sattva samavishto metavichina sangshayaha. Translation. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness, who neither hate auspicious work nor are attached to auspicious work, have no doubts about work. Text 11. Nahi deha britas shakyam tyaktum karmanya sheshataha yastu karma phala tyagi satyagi tyapidiyate. Translation. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities. Therefore it is said that he who renounces the fruits of action is one who has truly renounced. Text 12. Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividam karmana phalam bhavat yat yaginam pritya natu sanyasinam kvachit. For one who is not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life has no such results to suffer or enjoy. Text 13 and 14. Panchaitani mahabaho karma nani nibodhame sakye kritanti proktani siddhaye sarva karmanam adishtanam tata karta karanam cha pritag vidam vividascha pritag cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. Translation. O mighty armed Arjuna, learn from me of the 5 factors which bring about the accomplishment of all action. These are declared in Sankhya philosophy to be the place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. Last text, text 15. Shariravan mano biryat karma parabate naraha nyayam iva viparitam va panchaite tasya hetavaha. Translation. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. So we'll go ahead and go back to text 5. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki. The yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yagya. Should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yagya. The marriage ceremony is meant to regulate the human mind to become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yagya should be encouraged even by persons in the renounced order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women, but that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. Similarly, charity is for the purification of the heart. If charity is given to suitable persons, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life. So just to give a little background to chapter 18, Arjuna is posing some questions to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, about what is... Okay, let me go back to the question itself. Arjuna says, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation and of the renounced order of life, sannyas, O killer of the Keshi demon Hrishikesha. So Arjuna is questioning Krishna, what is the purpose of renunciation and sannyas? And sannyas is like a part of the Vedic system, an order of life in the Vedic system. Like you have student life, brahmachari life, then you have grihastha life, which is married life, and then you have vanaprast, which is retired life, like retired from work and retired from family life, basically, like you're no longer raising children. And then sannyas life, which is particularly for men who decide to take up serving Krishna with mind, body, and words, preaching all over the world or in your local place, depending on your situation. So Arjuna is asking, what is this sannyas? And what is renouncement? And so Krishna is saying acts of sacrifice, charity, penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So he's saying what renunciation is not. So it's not giving up just everything. We still have to perform action. So specifically, acts of sacrifice. So he mentions the marriage ceremony here. And in Vedic culture, there's fire sacrifice. So it's like you have a fire and you have a priest, and the priest is reciting important mantras. And these mantras and the participants involved help to more solidify this vow that the person's making. The persons, and like the man and the woman in this situation, be making a vow to stay married, to have children. And this is kind of the backbone of Vedic society, is the grihastas, because the grihastas support the vanaprasts, the sannyasis, and the brahmacharis through their work. So someone might be having a family on the outside, and they also have family too. Grihastas have family, children. They raise children in Krishna consciousness, and they provide some of the income for the temples to stay around and attract more people to come in and taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So the sannyasi is involved in this also. He's the one helping to perform this marriage ceremony, so he can't renounce these things either, even though they may seem like they shouldn't be involved, but they are actually like promoting this, as Prabhupada's saying, they're promoting this marriage, because the sannyasis can see that it has benefit to the persons who are taking this vow. It makes the man's mind more peaceful. He never has to be, in marriage, has to be searching out for another mate to have children. You can be peaceful in that way, because we can see just in like our material culture, there's so many men are spending so much time and energy on finding a mate. You know, they get a job to find a mate. They get a certain haircut. They have a certain car. They go to bars, or so many different things to get like the best education, so they can have the best house and they can have the best facility to have a family. But a family for what? So what's the goal in, that family? That's, they want to raise their kids. They could be nice. They could be in the mode of goodness. But they should question what the ultimate goal is having the family is. Is it just a continuation of the human species? Like, Some like to say, like, the human species, the only way we've been evolved this way to where we are is to have children and to continue on the human race. Well, the animals do that too. So they're also having children to continue on this race. But there's a difference between the animals and us, and that's, we have a higher intelligence. They have their intelligence, they have their instincts. They can, get their prey and eat and have family and build nests and so on. A squirrel builds a nest in a tree and it's very warm. They can survive those sub-zero temperatures that we had. They're all still alive. Pretty incredible, right? They were hiding in little squirrel holes, and we were hiding in our little stick and mud shacks, sort of, I guess. But we somehow stayed alive too. But we can think about the thinking of building the home, and why we're doing it, unlike the squirrels. So it's got to be more than just reproduction. So in the Vedas, we're told, Tato Brahma Jigyasa, so this human form of life is meant to inquire about who God is. And that's a sacrifice in itself. So Prabhupada's mentioning, we have the Vivaha Yagya. There's like the different samskars that are performed for any activity, for having a child. Different sacrifices are performed. These are prescribed sacrifices. But there's other sacrifices we can think about that we make on a daily basis to advance in something. So we're saying, okay, I want to have a strong body, a strong, healthy body. So I'm going to sacrifice some of my time that I would other use to do something else, to, say, go on a run or do some push-ups, so I can maintain my body in a healthy condition. Because today's society, most people are not working on a farm, and their work to actually sustain their livelihood is keeping their body fit. So, we do push-ups, we do so it's a sacrifice to do that. It's a sacrifice to take to Krishna consciousness, to take to a spiritual path, because you're choosing to do this rather than do that. So, for example, in our path, we're waking up every morning at 4 a.m. or earlier to get ready for the day, and then also to come here and sing to the Lord and purify our hearts. And then after that, we chant on our beads, drop a mala, and we spend hours doing that. That's time that could be spent doing something else, but we sacrifice that time to chant and to have that vibration continually going in our minds. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One morning I woke up, and I sometimes try to chant a couple of rounds before I come to the temple, and I was I could feel the vibration in my chest, and it radiating out of my chest and into my head. Something about it was a really nice resonance that was happening within my body. So at that point, it didn't really seem too much of a sacrifice. So some of these things that we might see as a sacrifice initially, eventually turn into something that's so sweet that we want to do it more and more. Right? Some people get addicted to exercise. They want to do more. Some people are exercising 4 hours a day, and they're not some of them want to do bodybuilding. A professional bodybuilder. I'm sure you could do that for Krishna. But some of them are doing that because they want to look good to have a better sex life. But that's, of course, like I said before, not really our goal in our life, our lives in particular here. Our goal is different. We want to do these acts of sacrifice to get to know God. And to be qualified to get to know God, we have to clean the heart. And so we clean the heart by the primary practice of chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's our main sacrifice. Then we have other sacrifices too. One of my favorites, taking prasadam, or spiritual food. I think he saved you a plate. Did you take some already? Not yet, okay. But I think Magadari Prabhu saved you a plate, so we'll make sure you get some of that prasadam. So yeah, we could be eating anything else, right? Just whatever we want, really. We could just say, I want to eat this, I want to eat that, But we choose to just take the remnants from the offering to the Lord. So we offer it to the Lord first, saying a few prayers, and he takes it. We wait a little while for him to take it, and then we take it ourselves as remnants from the Lord. I was thinking about this, especially if you're not living in like a temple environment, which most devotees are not. We're like really, really rare species these days to live in the temple. But so the devotees on the outside, they go to work and they're surrounded by so many options. Oh man, I could go to like a restaurant. I could go to the store and get like a pre-made meal or something like that. Which, some devotees do. No judgment, really. It's not my place to judge. But of course, like with prasadam, we take into account there's a lot of things to take into account. Like you could go as far back as to who planted the vegetables, who harvested the vegetables, who is now preparing the vegetables in the kitchen, who's cooking them, and then lastly, who's offering them. Not lastly, sorry, second to last, who's offering them, and then lastly, it's the consciousness of who's taking them. So there's so much energy that goes into the prasadam process. And it's a sacrifice, because we could make it so easy, but we understand these things affect our consciousness. And then it goes even deeper. We start to understand what types of prasadam our bodies do not deal with well. Some of us can't take certain types of beans. We just maybe have to just take the water that's cooked in the beans, which has some of the nutrients too from the beans, because our bodies can't digest it. So we have to we fine-tune our prasadam taking process. Why do we do that? Because if we don't do that, our bodies get messed up. And we're not able to perform our devotional services nicely as we would before. So that's a sacrifice too. We slowly start to understand what our body needs, and we abide by that or suffer the consequences. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to the next text. Unless does Maharaj have any comments? I don't know if he's on the call or... Okay. So we'll go on to text 6. All these activities should be performed without any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. Purport. Although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performances. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also it is said that any activity which leads to devotional service to the Lord should be accepted. That is the highest criterion of religion. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. So we're getting even more specific on the types of sacrifice that we should perform and how we should do it. So we should offer prasad, we should offer offerings, preparations to the Lord, not so we can eat it, but so we can please Him. Of course, in like my current stage, like I want to offer to Him so I can take it. I'm, neophyte devotee, and I love prasadam, and it's, part of the process. But eventually, we have so much love for Krishna that we're offering it to Him, not expecting it in return. Or say we're, so specifically maybe for devotees on the outside, they work, and then part of their sacrifice is giving some of those funds which they collect through their work to the temple, to either like the temple here, or they have a home temple also that they support too. They have deities which they offer, just like we have deities here which we offer. But the temple, of course, is a special place because our deities are installed, and certain sacrifices have had to happen for that to come about. And so it's quite important for everyone who wants to make advancement in Krishna consciousness to go to their local temple and take darshan of the deities and give something. It could be apples, like the Prabhu brought earlier from Wichita, came to visit us and have some prasadam, and he brought apples for the Lord. He's not going to take any of those apples. The Lord's going to take them all. He's not even going to get any of the remnants. But he brought them so nicely as an offering to Sri Sri Gaura Nitai. So in that way, grihastas or others living outside the temple can offer their time, their talents, their resources to continue on this Krishna consciousness movement, so more and more people can come to the movement and understand what true religion is. And so many people have different ideas of what religion is, but according to the Vedas, another word for religion is dharma. And so dharma is not faith. So some people get confused between what religion is and what faith is. And faith is, you could say, like Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, any ism, communism, atheism, that's their faith. They have faith in that process. But religion is what cannot be separated from the object, or what dharma is something that cannot be separated from the object. So the dharma of fire is heat and light. They cannot be separated from fire. And so similarly, the dharma of the soul, us, the eternal soul, which is us, is to serve. So in that way, that's the true religion, to serve. And we can either serve our senses or we can serve God. And so we have a choice there. That's kind of our minute independence. So the highest criterion of religion is to serve, to have devotional service. That's the highest criterion. Okay, we'll go into text 7. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If by illusion one gives up his prescribed duties, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Text 8. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear is said to be in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Text 9. But he who performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done, and renounces all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is of the nature of goodness, O Arjuna. So we have three types of renunciation. So he's answering the question that Arjuna posed in the beginning of the chapter. What is renunciation and what is sannyas? So we have the answer for renunciation is it's in three different levels. The mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. So we understand that the highest is the mode of goodness. It's to be performed for no result. So we do something without wanting to enjoy the result, or enjoying the result means you're attached to it, because if you're not attached to it, then you don't care. You care about the work you're doing, but you don't care if you get the result or you don't get the result. So in that way, if we're unattached to the fruit of the work, then we can be happy, actually be happy, because we won't care if we get it or we don't get it. So in that way, we remain equipoised between happiness and distress, and that's where the true happiness lies. Because, or else we'll be in the mountain and the trough. We'll be going up and down between happiness and distress. So maybe we'll read the purport to text 9. Prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna, and when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. So Prabhupada is giving a way in which everyone can be Krishna conscious and perform their duty. So you could be doing anything. Some things maybe not, but you could work an office job and be thinking how, oh man, all of this work that I'm doing is for Krishna. I'll use the fruits of my labor for Krishna. And I won't be attached to it, because I know that I'm not doing any of this actually. There's another verse in the Gita that says, the bewildered spirit soul under the three modes of material nature thinks himself the doer of activities, when in actuality they are carried out by material nature. So we think we're the doer, but actually we're just seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So we're just in the heart, and we might have the will to do something, like in my hand, my hand might be asleep, and then I'm willing to move it, but it won't move. So am I the doer? You should question it like that. And it's temporary, but it's kind of an illustration of how we don't actually do anything. It's actually carried out by material nature. And in that way, we can understand that, okay, if I'm not actually the doer, then does that mean that the results are for me? For example, you have like someone who's making money off gold. They didn't make the gold. The gold was dug up from the earth, and they just like reformed it into another shape maybe. But if they're not understanding, oh, I didn't make the gold actually, it's actually made by certain processes that happen in the earth, which is orchestrated by Krishna, then he's going to be attached to the result. So if we have this knowledge that Krishna is orchestrating everything under his separated energies, then we can be in full knowledge and be happy. I think I'll stop there. Hopefully there's some questions or comments or corrections. Yes, Bhakti Ju? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your nice class. My question to you is, So you were speaking a little bit about detachment and not expecting the results of our actions. And my question is, how can we become more detached? What is the process for actually uh, gaining detachment from material desires? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Prabhu. It's a long process. Bhakti is a long process. We're not running, we're walking very slowly. The main thing we do in this process is the chanting of the Maha Mantra. So that's our main thing we do. And that chanting is helping us realize that we're not our bodies. It's giving us realizations about what's going on in the world and how we're actually not in control of anything, really. So the more we chant, the more we have the realization that I'm spirit soul. My nature is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. It's eternal. It's full of bliss and knowledge. So that's my nature. That's my eternal nature. And so the more I perform this chanting of the Maha Mantra and serving through devotional service to the Lord, then we can come to understand that none of the results belong to us. It's all the mercy of the Lord that anything happens, anything that we perceive as good or bad, it's all happening due to the Lord and His energy, His material energy, also known as Maya. And so this is all like a machine. And if we don't understand the coins we're putting in to the slot machine, like if we have no idea, we're putting a coin into a slot machine, we're pulling the lever and bing, bing, bong, and we get the result and we don't know why it happened. That's kind of how a person who doesn't have the intelligence about material nature in general, like if you put your finger in fire, you're going to get burnt. There's no way around that, right? I mean, unless you're wearing some protective suit, but like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like for every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's a law of thermodynamics. So, some people might say, like I was taking some class in psychology and there's this just world fallacy where they're trying to say that like it's not the person's fault for something that happens to them. But like that's nonsense, because even though we can't perceive that the person has a fault for it or is getting the reaction for something that happened that they did in the past and they're getting a reaction for it now, doesn't mean it's not happening. So someone could be ignorant of the laws of material nature. And just like someone can be ignorant of the speed limit and get pulled over and get a ticket, but they can't use the excuse, I didn't know. So we should understand these laws more and more and how they're entangling to us. And the more we understand these laws and the activities that we do, the more we can become unattached to the fruits and we can give it up to Krishna. So it's based on the chanting, and in the chanting you get more knowledge about Krishna and you become more attached to Krishna. So you become more attached to Krishna and less attached to the results of something in general. But of course, we care about the results, especially in Krishna consciousness. Like we want more people to come to the temple. We want more people to understand who is God, who am I. So many people, because we see throughout the world that so many people are suffering. They're suffering because they're doing temporary activities that lead to a hellish condition of life, which they're creating the hellish condition themselves. The hellish condition happens on earth. So it's, we're not all doom and gloom. We just recognize what's happening. You smoke a cigarette, you might get lung cancer. It's equals 4. So we understand these things, and we don't want people to suffer, so we go out and we spread this knowledge to anyone and everyone. Did that help? Any other questions? Radhastali?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Thank you for sharing your nice realizations. I like how you answered Bhakti Jia's question of like if we understand how material nature works, how Krishna's nature works, we can become detached from it. Can I add one thing and then also ask a question?
Please.
So one thing that a lot of devotees have told me is that we think that these things are ours, and that's why we become attached. Like, I don't know, I've been attached to like a dog, and we had to give our dog away, and it was so hard. And, devotees have told me, well, you didn't own it in the first place. Krishna owns everything. So we can't say that we can't even say that we own anything. So to lose something is not really true because we never had it in the first place. But still, it's like the illusion that we're under, at least I'm under, is that, okay, I think I'm this body, I think I'm everything connected with it. And so everything that's connected with it, I own. But that's not true. Krishna owns it. God owns everything. Anyways, yeah, that is just my little addition. I hope that's okay. And my question is, so Krishna says in text 5, acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. And, we hear often about sacrifice and charity, but I'm wondering, what's an act of penance that devotees do? Because I looked it up in the dictionary, and penance is an act of atonement. So it's like, I'm atoning for a wrongdoing or a sin that I've committed. And so it's like self-inflicting pain, I think it said, something like this. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, Shukadev Goswami, he has this kind of question too about atonement in the Bhagavatam. He's asking, why are people doing this atonement, doing these penances if they're just going to repeat the action? And so in the first text of the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada's talking about this question that Shukadev Goswami that Maharaj Parikshit is asking Shukadev Goswami, why are people atoning? And the answer is they don't have knowledge about what atonement is. But Prabhupada says that real atonement, according to that first verse in Nectar Instruction, is taking up this process of Krishna consciousness. But I also heard in another essay by him in one of his small books, it was either, I can't remember which one, it wasn't Matchless Gifts, it was Beyond Birth and Death, small one, Beyond Birth and Death. He was saying that, okay, yes, trying to strive to become Krishna consciousness, yes, but this striving to be Krishna conscious also means you're asking why something is happening. So this Krishna consciousness gives you the ability in your mind to stop and question, why is this happening to me? And so by asking that question, we're searching more about our own actions. And by that process, along with the help of the devotees and chanting, and all the other things that we do as in devotional service, helps to purify us of those things that we're doing that are negatively impacting our relationship with Krishna. So penance could be dancing in front of the deities, because you're cleaning your heart. We want to clean our heart, get all those bad things out of there, or else we're going to keep repeating those same actions because of conditioning. But we're not false renouncing here, could be thought of. We are searching for a higher taste, param drištva nivartate. So we're searching for the higher taste in life. Instead of eating decomposing flesh, we decide to not do that and take Krishna Prasadam, which is sumptuous food that's healthy and is a complete diet. So that's not renunciation, that's replacement, getting a higher taste. So we're replacing all those, like, I have a taste for stealing, and I have to do some penance because of that. But that's not real penance. Real penance is taking up Krishna consciousness so you can understand why you're stealing. And then once you understand why you're stealing, you can use that same propensity in the service of Krishna by having a higher taste. You could be stealing for Krishna, not like actually thievery, but it's more of a metaphorical thing. Okay, yes. Arisananta Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for a wonderful class, Prabhu. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it mentions that there are three things that happen simultaneously. Attachment to Krishna, devotional service, and detachment from the material energy. And if any one of the three don't happen in the equation, then it can't be considered legitimate. So someone could say, well, I'm very detached from the material world, but I'm not really interested in that Krishna. Well, it's not really a true detachment, because in due course of time, those attractions will return again. However, as you've mentioned several times, due to the purifying nature of Krishna consciousness, you can actually give up the interest in temporary things by getting that higher taste. The 18th chapter is also like a summary of everything that we've already learned. And so here we're kind of like almost re-emphasizing the yoga ladder in one sense, right? That there's this sense of like performing duty just for the sake of doing your duty. And Krishna mentions that, I think in the 4th verse here, that, or I can't remember which one it is, but before he gets into his discussion of the three modes, he says that actually you shouldn't give up these acts of sacrifice, but they should be done out of a matter of duty, right? And he's specifically there talking about, to me, right? That's the highest of all, and that's his final conclusion, and that's they actually should be done. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was that, oh no, I think that's it. Thanks, Prabhu.
Thank you. Any concluding thoughts? Yeah, please.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So on that point, chapter 5, text 5 states, Yat sankhya prapyate sthanam yad yoger api kamyate ekam sakyam cha yogam cha ya pashyati sapashyati. One who knows that the position reached by means of renunciation can also be attained by works and devotional service, and who therefore sees that the path of works and the path of renunciation are one, sees things as they are. Prabhupada mentions in this purport here that detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. So one who can see this sees things as they are. So you know, for instance, a devotee, he may be in a position where he's cooking for Krishna and he thinks, well, I'm completely detached from this, so therefore his consciousness might be skewed, he might not be in the proper consciousness, I'm actually cooking for God now. So, you know, he might just do something like super, super simple. I'm not going to take it anyway, you know, otherwise this is not the right consciousness. You know, he might be detached from it, but his attachment to Krishna is not strong enough where this is like rightful renunciation. You know, even though he's not taking it, you know, his attachment to Krishna is not sufficient. So, it's not coming out in an act of devotion. I mean, it is, but it's, you know, it may not be the proper consciousness. Whereas, like, you know, if somebody's attachment for Krishna, like they're totally absorbed, I'm doing this activity, I'm doing for Krishna, so let me do it to the highest degree that I can possibly do it, you know. And whether I get the fruits of this result or not,
whether it comes or it goes, that's fine too. That's where the real renunciation is at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quickly, also on the detachment, that we know that from the second chapter that you, by not contemplating the objects of the senses, you can be on your way to being free from attachment. Right?
Yeah, mind control. Otherwise, we're going to continue to think about the same things. One more comment, and then we'll end for the day. Thanks, Prabhu. Or a question. Yeah.
Question, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I'm in the grocery store a lot, and I'm like seeing all this boga all the time, you know. And I'm thinking like, why don't I just take this apple and offer it to the Lord? Sure, I'll be cheating this worker of his fruit of result, but it'll be the perfection of his labor. You know, go offer to the Lord, whatever. Maybe I'm doing him a favor by cheating him of his fruit of result, that karmic reaction. You know, I'm offering to the Lord anyways. So, what's like the purport on that? I'm not saying that I'm going to steal it, but I'm just
Oh, is the question like you would buy it or you would steal it?
stealing boga and offering it to the Lord.
Okay, yeah. There's a funny story about this. You probably know what I'm thinking of. Mother Malati, yeah, in San Francisco. Yeah. So back when the movement first started in the U.S., you know, Prabhupada came from India with like $7 basically. Maybe it's like $40 now or something. I don't know what the... Anyway, he came and he started the movement. And the second place, he started in New York City, and then he started in San Francisco. And there were some devotees who came and were helping him there, who became his disciples. And so they were trying to feed. There was during the Haight-Ashbury and hippie time, 1966, 65. So there was a lot of crazy things happening there that you wouldn't see now. Anyway, so there was all these just young people just always around, and so they would be preparations for the Lord Prasadam, and sometimes they wouldn't have enough. And Mother Malati, she noticed that there was a truck outside, and every morning it would deliver dairy products. And so she got the idea, maybe I'll just go in that, when the guy's gone, I'll go in the truck and like take it and offer to the Lord. Yeah, to get butter. For Krishna loves butter. So she got butter, and she was using it in cooking. And Prabhupada, he was actually there at that time visiting, and he said, like, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. So, you know, from that example, from the Acharya, we can hear that, you know, we probably shouldn't steal. But then, like, practically, we could think, I'm not setting a good example for others who are watching me. So we should all try to become Acharya, one who teaches by example. And stealing is not a good example to set, nor does it help our consciousness. That's my furthest realization on that. But I don't think Mother Malati stole butter again. Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone for coming to the class today. It was nice to have you here. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jaya. Panchakalpa Churascha Kripasanibhyo Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.